This is NEGOTIATEx TV.
Welcome to the NEGOTIATEx podcast. I am your co-host, Nolan Martin. With me today, as usual, is Aram. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Actually, Aram is not joining us today. We wanted to change it up today because I wanted to share how learning negotiations impacted my career and life. The goal of this episode is to hopefully demonstrate what your employees and junior leaders could walk away with if you decide to invest in negotiations training. But before we dive into this episode, I quickly want to say thank you to all of the veterans. This episode will be released on Veterans Day, and I'd like to say that I greatly appreciate your service. For our young veterans, the past 10 plus years have been full of excitement and sorrow that both Aram and I have experienced. So from both of us, thank you for your service. When Aram and I launched NEGOTIATEx, the goal was to provide leaders with the fundamentals to understand how to engage in a deliberate negotiation. See, we have different negotiations daily. From persuading a boss to pay for you to attend a professional conference to convincing your wife to not watch another episode of the 90-Day Fiancé. We go through life having daily conversations where you hope to achieve your desired result. I truly believe that what I have learned in taking Aram's negotiation course over 11 years ago taught me how to place an emphasis on preparation, how to approach a problem, and how to train others. See, before I took this course, I was infamous for the it will buff out approach. If I was going into a meeting, quiz, interview, or anything like this, I figured it would all work itself out. I never placed any emphasis on preparation, and I was awful when it came time to do any studying for a test. When I encountered a negotiation, maybe asking a professor for an extension on an assignment, or maybe convincing my peers of a path we should take on a group project, I figured it would be a battle of wills to see who could bug everyone the most to get their way. This may have worked with my peers, but I don't think it ever worked with any of my professors, Aram included. And when it came to training, if I had to do with like any conceptual training, as in anything that didn't require running around the woods, then I'm sure I failed at training my subordinates because I didn't quite understand the structure of teaching something conceptual. So when it comes to how the Negotiations for Leaders course impacted my life and my career over the past 11 years, I think this course has, number one, taught me to place an emphasis on preparation. Number two, taught me how to understand a problem and approach it creatively. And number three, how to train my subordinates and junior leaders on a conceptual skill. So with that, number one, placing an emphasis on preparation. When you use the NEGOTIATEx prep tool and work through the 7 elements prep worksheet, you really start to understand how to take a deliberate approach to preparation. For those of you who have not received this free tool, head over to negotiatex.com and you will see the sign up for the prep tool on the homepage. Now, the military does a great job in preparing with their operations order process, but I think that the negotiations helped me truly understand how to prepare by understanding all of the key decision makers that are involved in a decision. For instance, I used to plan pretty elaborate training exercises with an added degree of risk. To help shape my boss's decision, I would make sure that I engaged the staff first to figure out how we could make it work. And then I'd be sure to think about what his boss would think if he supported or denied this training opportunity, and how could we already address the concerns from both him and his boss before we even spoke to my boss about what we are trying to do. Understanding how the stakeholder mapping and how other people may have an impact on the outcome is extremely important to identify during the preparation process. Number two, how to understand a problem and approach it creatively. Be tough on the problem, not on the person, is something that I still remember from 11 years ago. This has served me well more than a number of times because, as I mentioned earlier, I used to treat problems as a battle of wills. Whoever wants it bad enough will hold their ground until the other person gives in. Since taking negotiations, I now understand that you can creatively solve issues that address both parties' concerns. The path to get the C is not always through A and B, and there is likely a D and an E that you haven't even thought of. So instead of working against your counterpart, figure out how to work with your counterpart to create even more value. Number 3, how to train my subordinates on a conceptual skill. Many people may argue that leadership is a trait that you are either born with or you aren't. Both Aram and I are adamant that leadership is a skill that can be developed, and luckily, negotiations as well. Before taking negotiations, it would have been nearly impossible for me to creatively train a conceptual skill to my subordinates. Like I said earlier, if it didn't involve running in the woods or closing the distance on the enemy, then I don't think I could really make an impact on my subordinates. But negotiations is a framework: preparation, execution, evaluation. By being deliberate through each of the steps, you can creatively train your subordinates how to become a better negotiator and thereby a better problem solver. For you leaders out there, I firmly believe that training your subordinate leaders on how to become deliberate negotiators, you are equipping them with the skills to become better prepared, be tough on problems and not people, and to become better leaders, which will hopefully bleed into training other standard operating procedures. So with that, this is a podcast that is all about delivering value to your organization, your business, and life by elevating your influence through purposeful negotiations. So with that, here are a few key takeaways to help you become better negotiators and leaders from this episode. Key takeaway number 1, take the time to invest in your team for them to learn how to become a better negotiator. If they have similar takeaways like me, they are going to save you time because they are going to start thinking about the impacts of problem solving levels above you. They're going to understand how to be tough on problems, and they're going to understand how to be leaders and train their subordinates on the skills that you may learn in this training. You are investing in leader development and will pay dividends in the long run. Key takeaway number 2, leave us a review wherever you listen to this podcast. We are growing with every episode, and more negotiators and leaders are listening to each episode. So both Aram and I sincerely thank you, and we could not be more appreciative. So that is it on today's podcast episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or want us to cover a specific topic, shoot us an email at team@negotiatex.com. We'll try to cover it in future episodes. So with that, we will see you in the next episode. Hey, thanks for checking out this video on NEGOTIATEx TV. If you found any value at all, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification icon if you want to be notified of future videos. And then we also have a couple videos over here that you might be interested in checking out. If you and your small business, your team are looking to get negotiations or leadership training, then you can head over to negotiatex.com and learn more about the coaching services we offer. Thanks, and I'll see you over in the next video.